Hello and welcome to the business interview here on France 24. I'm Tom Burgess-Watson, and today my guest is the CEO of one of the world's largest advertising firms. He's the only British CEO of a French-listed company. He's a former First Division rugby player, a semi-professional tennis player, and he's the founder of a charity called One Young World, which brings together more young people from more countries than any event on earth, barring the Olympic Games. David Jones, CEO of Havas, thank you very much indeed for joining us from Pittsburgh. Now, you're there for the annual summit of your One Young World event. You co-founded this organisation. Can you tell us what it is and what it is that it aims to achieve?
Yeah, I mean, basically the whole idea behind One Young World is to give the brilliant young people of the world a platform to effect positive change. They're an incredibly unique generation. You know, technology has made them more knowledgeable than any previous generation of young people. They are also more responsible than any young generation before them because they know all the issues that are going on in the world. But I think probably the most unique thing is that they actually are the people who best understand the digital and social revolution that's taking place. You know, they understand the power of the Twitters and the Facebooks and actually how to use them to affect positive change. So we bring together 1,300 of them from over 182 countries. The event will be kicked off by Bill Clinton, President Bill Clinton giving the address. We have fantastic councillors, everyone from Kofi Annan to Jack Dorsey, the founder of Twitter, from Jamie Oliver, who's behind the food revolution, also to major representation from business. So the global CEO of Unilever, Paul Polman, will be here. The global CEO of Barclays, Anthony Jenkins, will be here. And they're here to counsel and really empower and inspire the young people to go off and affect positive change.
Are you worried about this generation? Is that what's prompted you to set this event up? Because it's a generation with huge bills in store for it, which have been left behind by the previous generation.
I mean, I think, you know, at a big picture level, all of my interactions with this generation don't make me worry because I think they are incredibly smart, incredibly responsible, and what I see them doing is almost they will get it right where we got it wrong. In fact, we have a very interesting interview between the British Prime Minister David Cameron and 3 One Young World ambassadors who went to talk to him about this, and it's actually one of the subjects that they discuss is, you know, but there's no point in looking back and sort of saying that previous generations got it wrong. It's about looking forward and seeing how we fix it. And one of the big areas that they'll be debating over the coming days is the whole role of global business. And there's an interesting thing going on because 91% of them believe that business must have a goal beyond just profit, but also 84% of them, you know, believe that business needs to be doing more to create employment opportunities for young people. And when you see the unemployment numbers in countries like Spain today, where you have 50% unemployment among young people, you kind of understand the size and scale of the issue. And I think the solution that comes out of that is business needs to do both good and well. It's not about, you know, just making money and forgetting the social responsibility side of things, or about just worrying about that and not making money. Business needs to both profit and have purpose.
And that's something, again, very close to your heart because you've written a book about this. You wrote the book, Who Cares Wins. Give us a sense of what that book is actually about.
At its most simple level, you know, it says that the technology has created a world of radical transparency, and that if today you are a leader or a business and don't behave in the right way, people have the ability now to sanction you. So whether you're the head of an Arab Spring country, you know, the CEO of BP, of News International, etc., we've seen what's happened to companies who behaved in the wrong way and the power that young people have, in particular, to sanction them and bring them down. Even in the election in the US at the moment, with the 47% leaking out, it's another terrific example of the power of technology. Similarly, if you behave in the right way, people can get behind you and support you and make your business more successful. And at its most simplistic, the book says that what has happened is that social media has taken CSR out of the silo and put it in the P&L statement, and that the new price of doing well is doing good, and that in the future, and there's a concept I created called the social business idea, which is the overlap between making money and doing good. And I think if last century was about charities and NGOs having great intentions but not necessarily great execution, and business having great execution but not always great intentions, this century needs to be about, and can be about, business having both great intentions and great execution.
Now, all the people there at your summit are part of the so-called Facebook generation, and Facebook is something very close to your heart. You, in your capacity as an advertising executive and CEO, presumably have some very valuable advice for Facebook at a time when they really need expertise just like yours.
Yeah, I mean, I think, Facebook is a very important platform for us as One Young World. We were actually one of the first ever events to be live streamed on Facebook, and the platform lives through Facebook. I'm not particularly worried about Facebook's future. I mean, I think we've always said in marketing that the single most powerful thing is word of mouth, not advertising. And what Facebook is a 1 billion person global live real-time word of mouth platform. And I think there will be a number of ways that Facebook will be able to monetize that over time. Clearly things got hyped up enormously ahead of the IPO, and I think there was always going to be a fall after that. But certainly both what I've seen from them in terms of the ROI on advertising, I think is starting to look very good and very promising. And I think particularly when we get into some of the broader areas and the broader things they can do, I'm a big believer in the future of Facebook and its success.
There are quite a lot of missed opportunities. As you mentioned, 1 billion users out there, but surely they could have done more, and they can still do a lot more to really cash in on that incredible database.
Yes, and they will. I mean, I think if you look at Google, they went through a very similar learning curve and a very similar period. I mean, it's still a relatively very new business, and in any new business, you take time to work everything out. There will be missteps. That's inevitable. I think what happens when you become as sort of the media darling that Facebook was is all of those missteps are done in a very public environment. But I just think at the most simplistic level, the ability, as long as nobody in any of the digital medium platform oversteps the privacy mark, I think, if people see a real benefit from giving up information about themselves because the overall services and experiences they get back from that are much richer and much more enhanced, they will do it, and these companies will be very successful.
Let's talk now about your goals and your priorities as CEO of Havas, where you've been a little more than a year and a half. What are the growth areas in your sector, both territorially and in terms of individual sectors in the advertising world that are performing better than any other?
I mean, I think, the Havas performance on the whole would be mirroring the global economy, which is, very strong growth in Asia and Latin America, solid performance in North America, and Europe being the weakest sector. That said, we're still growing in Europe. We grew for the first 6 months of the year in Europe. We grew last year in Europe. So, whilst the economy remains tough, I think it shows that good businesses can continue to perform. And the expression that I always use is one I learned in Australia, which is when there's a shark in the water, you don't need to swim faster than the shark, just faster than everybody else. And I think we've had a pretty good year to date. The economic climate in Europe remains uncertain, but I don't think it's going to get dramatically worse than it has been in the past. And overall, our key priorities are continuing to grow and expand our business in digital. We're very strong in the digital space. We have a lot of major clients and a lot of major wins there, but that remains an absolute priority, continuing to build on that. We continue to drive our growth in the emerging markets and are spending a lot of the acquisition monies and budgets we have in that space. And I think what we've actually done is we've become the first of the major global companies to actually put media, creativity and digital all together. So in Paris, we moved 2,200 people to a new building, creative media and digital all together. We're doing exactly the same thing in New York, and really just reiterating and underscoring the fact that Havas has a much simpler, much more agile and much more integrated structure. And I think that will be able to deliver hopefully a real competitive advantage for us moving forward. And particularly because the other thing we've done is we haven't left digital in a silo. We've integrated digital inside all of our businesses, which we think is something that's critical to their future success.
Our president here in France, François Hollande, said just a few days ago that there was light at the end of the tunnel. We're emerging from the Eurozone crisis. Are you seeing any evidence of that? Would you agree?
I don't think there's any evidence that the Eurozone is emerging from the crisis versus, say, 6 or 12 months ago. I think what we are seeing, though, is, the real brutal shock in the Eurozone happened 2 or 3 years ago. I think from an overall business perspective, this year is not either dramatically better or worse than last year was, and I think the same thing will happen next year. From our perspective, we're not anticipating that next year Europe will be either dramatically worse or better than this year. We think it will be very much more of the same, which is an overall low growth environment. But as I said earlier, we're managing to still grow our business in Europe. So, whilst it's not It's not the most fantastically buoyant part of the world today. It's still ticking along okay.
And as a British CEO of a French corporation, you're sort of an outsider. You're actually based in New York. But what's your view as an outsider looking in? Do you think the government of François Hollande is perhaps unfriendly to the small businessmen, as some people, including this protest group called Les Pigeons, would suggest that François Hollande is stacking things up against them and making life difficult for the small businessmen?
I mean, I think, what's happened in the world today is the world has gone global. Consumers are global, business is global. We've seen that the financial systems are global, and the political model has remained a very local one. And I think one of the challenges that the leader of any country will have is if you put in place measures which penalize business in one country, businesses have the ability to move things around, be it talent, be it headquarters, be it all those kind of things, to places that are more advantageous for business. So, we'll see how it all plays out. But I think any leader who puts in place things that penalise businesses, the businesses are probably going to look elsewhere.
I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, David Jones, the CEO of Havas. Thank you very much indeed for talking to France 24, and thanks to you for watching. Do stay tuned to France 24.